All right, I'm snapping my finger. You can't see it, but I am doing it. Welcome back. Joining us now for the Spinning the Law segment. We haven't done it in a couple of weeks, but Kendall Coffey, founding member of Coffey Burlington, joins us. Of course, famed attorney, author of the book by the same name. Kendall, good to talk to you again.
Hey, I've missed you. Great to be back.
No. Okay, we're back in the saddle and ready to go, and we have so much to talk about. I want to talk about this Ebola thing here, and there's a couple of issues here now. I don't want to throw you a curve. We've learned a lot more. But first, I don't want to throw you a curve. We've learned a lot more. But first and foremost, if this guy went to the hospital and it's written down somewhere, either the emergency room, person who takes the information when you're walking off the street, or subsequently another doctor, or both of them, if it's recorded somewhere that he said he went to Liberia. And they still sent him home and said, you got the flu, take a pill or whatever. Could that hospital be in legal trouble, big legal trouble?
Boy, I would think so. I mean, if heaven forbid, there are others who, are infected because the hospital blew it. And apparently, if they were told there's a clear-cut rule, guideline, protocol that says you got to put them in isolation tests. So something this serious, this clear-cut a violation, if it's proven, I think they could be looking at plenty of legal trouble.
Plenty of legal trouble. Yeah, it certainly seems that way. Now, I don't know, I don't want to throw you a curve here, but now we're hearing that this guy lied. Liberia says they're going to go after him because he lied in sworn documents that he had to sign at the airport leaving the country there, saying he had no contact with anybody with Ebola when he was in fact taking care of people who had Ebola. So here's another crazy aspect to this. So I hope he lives, but if he lives, he could suffer those consequences too. I don't know Liberian law, but it can't be too good.
Well, obviously we're all concerned about his well-being as well as that of anybody else he came in contact with. But there are reasons those questions are put there. They want to see, even before you get on the plane, whether there's any risk that you could be bringing something that's deadly back to your own country. If he lied, and we don't know that he did, I'm sure it's prosecutable under Liberian law. But I would not be surprised to know that there are U.S. laws that could be implicated as well. I mean, that's something I can't give you an opinion on off the top of my head.
No, sure.
Think how serious that would be because you want to get out of the country. One of the most important questions you could be asked is, were you around anybody? And if that's lied about, that's very serious business.
Yeah, and now we have the family in voluntary quarantine. And the press conference from Dallas earlier, about an hour ago, they said that they were not being cooperative in staying in the house, in the apartment, as has been requested. They didn't answer, why don't you just take them to the hospital and keep them there? But I think one of the kids, it was a report that one of the kids might have even gone, or many of them, might have gone to school. And had to be removed from the school by officials. So I don't know. I mean, we're walking a fine line here. But God forbid if this gets worse. I mean, what's the government's capacity to mandatorily, if that's a word, say to people, you can't leave your home or you have to be quarantined?
The government can. I mean, they've got to follow the procedures, but they can impose quarantines. It's within the power of the federal government, and you can easily imagine why. It's because somebody may think they're fine, but they could be a walking time bomb if they're let loose out into the public.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on and let's talk a little bit about what's going on in Ferguson. The grand jury, of course, is meeting, and earlier we have been told that we could expect some kind of decision in early to mid-October. We're already in October, and now we have prosecutors investigating a tweet that claims that the grand jurors hearing the evidence, at least some of them believe there's not enough evidence to bring an indictment. Now, what happens if there was such a tweet and it came from a person who did have contact with a grand juror? Does that whole grand jury get dismissed? Is that particular grand juror who spoke to someone in trouble? How does that work?
Well, I think that thankfully it's not a situation that comes up a lot, but it's a clear violation of grand jury secrecy if somebody who's in the grand jury process is talking about the contents of the proceeding. So it may or may not be a criminal violation because the way the Missouri statute is worded, we don't know exactly who said what. But certainly they're going to be admonished at the beginning of the process not to discuss what goes on here with anybody. So that grand juror can't guarantee what the punishment might be, but would certainly, if it were proven, get booted off the grand jury. Would they have to start over again? I don't know that that's the case. I think that, there will be those who strongly argue for that. As you know, some of the people in the community want a different prosecutor to hold up the thing. But it would strike me that in this kind of process that you could replace the grand juror, and you'd have to have some system for reviewing the evidence that had already been presented.
So they could catch up.
I think that approach would be within the law, but there are going to be those that argue that if it's proven that this grand juror violated grand jury secrecy, which is a very important
that
matter,
would taint the whole thing and even more, and claim the fixes in and racism and the whole thing, I guess. And
if you're the prosecutor, put yourself in the prosecutor's position. Whatever you're going to do is going to be a hailstorm of controversy.
Absolutely.
So you might just
and Kendall, we're up against the clock, unfortunately. But, yeah, no, you're right. It would be a mess. It would be a total mess. I appreciate it. We'll speak to you next week, I hope. And take care, Kendall. Thank you.
See you next week. Thanks.
All right, take care. All right, folks, investment strategist Monty Resnick has 3 common investing mistakes you should avoid. Here's your Max to Money moment coming up, and learn what they are.
You're watching Max to Money.
When it comes to investing, you always hear that past performance is no guarantee of future success. Yet many investors ignore that mantra and so often make 3 very common mistakes.
First mistake is chasing returns. This is commonly referred to as rearview mirror investing. This is like driving down the highway only looking in your rearview mirror, and we know how dangerous that can be. Second mistake is trying to time the markets. There's a baseball Hall of Fame, there's a rock and roll Hall of Fame, but the Market Timing Hall of Fame is an empty room. And the third mistake most common is chasing yield. This should be the most conservative aspect of your portfolio, but when you chase yield, you tend to take on more risk than you bargained for.
So don't fall victim to those mistakes. Talk to a financial advisor and have a strategy so that when you find that next gem, make sure not to get in too late or exit too soon. I'm Karina Brez.
Get more money news at newsmax.com.
The CDC confirms a Hawaii patient does not have the Ebola virus. I'm Miranda Kahn. The story tops your Newsmax Now update. Hawaii's Department of Health ruled out the disease, saying the patient doesn't fit the criteria to have contracted the virus. And Liberian officials say they'll prosecute the man who brought Ebola to the U.S. Authorities say Thomas Eric Duncan lied on his survey about having no contact with an infected person. Meanwhile, Texas authorities have asked Duncan's family to stay home. Officials, meanwhile, are reaching out to nearly 100 people who may have had contact with the virus, including children. And those warnings have prompted many in Dallas area parents to keep their kids home from school, but so far, officials say no one is showing signs of Ebola. That was your Newsmax Now update. More coming your way in about 30 minutes.